today. Did you finish your homework? Well, if you did, you can have a ChillPoint as a treat. This is ChillPoint. And if you didn't, your punishment is ChillPoint.
Yeah.
They don't tell you.
It's
So you
2
can
hours
just,
of ChillPoint.
hand in blank paper. So you can say you handed in your homework.
There you go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to ChillPoint, show where we talk about the week's video game news and the episode of Checkpoint that went up this week. Went up yesterday. If you have noticed, or been watching our live streams or keeping track of various other things that are happening in the office around here.
Like through our Discord.
Yeah. Things have been pretty...
Not through the live cam we have set up.
Yeah. But things have been a little disrupted this week. But I think the episode of Checkpoint ended up turning out really well.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, and thanks again to Nelson and Cameron for their excellent stories that they did.
Yeah.
As well as the standard level of excellence from Graham and Beej.
Don't sell yourself short too, Paul. You source all the stories, and then you also source all the images, and then you have to build the whole damn thing so we can actually make it look good. And then Heather has to edit it all.
Look, everybody is excellent.
Yeah, we're all doing a very good job
excellent.
here. And we're glad that you're paying us for the privilege of doing that at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun, and also here on Twitch and also on YouTube.
Gold stars for everyone.
Everyone's doing a great job, I think. Thank you so much for continuing to put money into this system, because holy shit. It's getting rough out there,
We're
folks.
running out of ways to earn it. Anyway.
Hey, so yeah, let's start talking about this week's episode of Checkpoint.
Down to business. Ignore everything else.
There is in the first story is about this Bungie, the copyright lawsuit that they're currently dealing with. And I feel like there was not confusion, but maybe an aspect of this wasn't made totally clear in the story.
Right.
So as a quick summary, an author, Matthew Kinsley Martineau, alleges that aspects of the Red War and the Curse of Osiris were lifted from works that he had published online previous to the...
Yeah, we can give a timeline to that, in fact, too, because Martineau said that the stuff that he wrote on WordPress to put online...
in 2012.
Yeah, it was like really early. And then like Destiny 2 was 2017?
I don't know.
He claimed that the stuff that they took was in 2017.
Yeah.
I don't know when Destiny 2 actually came out, because I feel like that game has been around
Well,
forever.
it was Destiny, and then it...
Destiny.
That doesn't help.
So, yeah, it said he wrote some stuff years before anything would have happened, or before Destiny 2 even came out, before the Red War and the Curse of Osiris were even a thing that was operating anywhere. And the point that we're at in the lawsuit at this point, which I think is interesting because like the lawsuit was filed in 2024. And the point the lawsuit that this motion to dismiss from Bungie is getting thrown out by the judge being like, we're not going to dismiss this based on what you've said. This doesn't even sound like they've started the trial proper. Like they're in the discovery process.
So, no, they're not even in the discovery. So that's the point here is that, because I saw some people in the comments in various places talking about it's like, so Bungie can't show this that they didn't infringe because the stuff they have to show is off the game now. Yeah, is out of the game now. But wait, how does the guy who is suing
filed
them
the lawsuit
show that? So, but the important thing to realize here is this is not the reason. I mean, we're reporting on this because it's funny that Bungie is getting in trouble for not archiving their older stuff properly.
Which is, of course, what everybody, like all the older Destiny 2 players want, is to be able to go back and play all the earlier stuff anyway. So,
but the point here is that this is not the copyright case. This is Bungie published or submitted a motion to dismiss the case, and that motion has been rejected. So this is the important thing about these motions to dismiss is that it is not actually ruling on the merits of the case at all.
right.
Right. This is basically where you would be able to dismiss this. This is if you'd be like, this guy didn't have a WordPress site in 2012.
Right.
Or, it's like really obvious stuff that makes the rest of the case pointless.
Right. So that we didn't have to have a case at all in the first place.
And Bungie was attempting to allege that the fact that they've got this stuff already. And so it was like, one, they didn't have the real stuff.
Yeah.
But two, as the judge says in the thing, he doesn't actually care if they had the real stuff.
Yes.
Because that's not what the motion to dismiss isn't trying to determine whether this was actually infringement or not.
Yeah.
Because the motion to dismiss was denied, it's like now we're going to go to discovery. The people are going to bring up stuff. And as people in the comments rightly pointed out, even if Bungie doesn't have the running stuff, presumably they have scripts and whatever else.
Design documents.
Design documents. There's other evidence they can bring in.
Yeah.
That I'm
internal writing from the people who are writing the game.
Yeah, Matthew Kelsey Martineau, he's got an uphill battle to fight on this.
Absolutely.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
So don't think that he's won this copyright case. All he's done is the judge has been like, no, you do have to actually do the case.
Yeah.
You do have to actually prove this. It isn't such a ridiculous notion that you might have copied this guy's things that I can dismiss the case outright.
Yeah. And there is there has been, because you looked this up last night, Heather, you said that it's been these kind of cases, one person against a large company.
Oh yeah, the article, I don't know, Ars Technica or whatever place that this one was on, said that this was a trend that amongst judges not to throw out plagiarism cases or
copyright
infringement cases right away to actually look at them more seriously, as opposed to just throwing them out when they show up. Yeah,
because if Microsoft comes to the table and it's like, no, we allege that it hasn't happened, and the judge is like, okay, well they said that it didn't happen, so bye. That. I mean, that hasn't happened exactly like that, but it's more of a this is a we want to give people the right to. You came this far, right? You looked at this problem. You're like, that's weird. And then you looked into it more and you're like, oh, that is really weird. Hey, wait, I think they infringed on whatever. Then you went and you talked to a lawyer. Then maybe you went and you talked to a second lawyer to try to find somebody else who'd be interested in this thing. And then your lawyer's like, I think we can build a case. And then you started trying to build a case. And then you come up with your case. And then you had to file your case. And at that point, we're like, you're maybe 6 months to a year or longer in this process of, what do I do about this? And finally, you're like, I got to do something because, I can't believe that they've used my work. And so you're in this process. I think in a way, to come to court and be like, okay, but surely this is true. Please let me at least try to argue this in court. And the court's like, no, but they said that a YouTube video that somebody put up one time counteracts your entire case, so I'm throwing it out. And it's like, I just want to talk to you about what was in the game so you can see it. Give the little guy an opportunity to maybe make that case larger. He might still end up losing it, but we'll see.
And I think the big thing with this kind of stuff, one of the main reasons why Bungie wants to get something like this dismissed, obviously save money, but also once something like this goes to court, it opens up the discovery thing.
Yeah.
And then all sorts of interesting, obviously
we learn a lot of new stuff.
Well, obviously the thing that you want is an email of a Bungie executive going, check out this WordPress site. This is a great story.
Yeah. We should totally rip it off. That would be illegal though. Well, not if we don't stop, if we just stop talking about it, it will be fine.
But 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 for seriously though, the idea that there could be some archival record that Bungie actively knew about this other story
Yeah.
is not that far-fetched.
Yeah.
And that does happen in these cases.
And it might end up being one of those cases where it's like, oh, it's landing on the back of some writers, and they'll find that out later that it's like, oh, it turns out that a writer was reading some stuff off a WordPress site several years earlier, and then when it came time for them to write for the game, they had this great idea that they didn't realize they lifted whole hog from somebody else.
These are all possibilities, that are not necessarily true.
Yeah.
And I only point that out because I don't care about the big guy winning or not.
Sure.
But when you start talking about conspiracy theory stuff or what could have been or what might be, when a court hasn't determined that yet, you put those ideas out into the universe and you paint everything that way.
I mean, it is just speculation about multiple ways this could go, obviously. Like, it's just like there's a lot of different ways that this could end up becoming resolved.
Or it could just be that Bungie would like to dismiss this trial because it would be a waste of their time to have to go through it and spend money on it.
There's that too, yeah.
I'm not saying that Bungie would not want to. That's the reason why they don't want to. They want to dismiss it. I'm saying that's the reason why that's the reason why pushing into the actual copyright thing favors the person who is submitting the copyright thing.
Yeah, the complainant.
Yeah,
because I think it's not really plaintiff and defendant, isn't it? Because it's not a criminal case. So you have a complainant and a respondent.
The person bringing the suit.
Yeah.
Anyway, assuming it doesn't get settled somehow out of court, presumably this is the kind of thing that might last for a long time. And we'll see if there's any info about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it might be a long time before we see if there's info.
Yeah, because of course often they get, if there is a settlement, it'll be like nobody can talk about it.
No one will talk about it. If there's a settlement, then we'll hear there's a settlement. If there's not, if there's actual court rulings, it can take a while for a court to go to court. I feel like Apple and Epic was an exception because it was such a big case that we would hear about it like almost every week.
Yeah. And things kept leaking.
There was that too.
Speaking of leaks,
great.
There is possibly, but also not
impossibly,
possibly, but also possibly not.
Yeah.
The inadvertent leak of a Chrono Trigger remake.
Yeah.
Which appears to maybe be a miscommunication between translator.
Yes.
Or maybe it was maybe the miscommunication was what was being said, or the miscommunication was what was not supposed to be said. But whatever the case,
yeah,
people are excited. I mean, people are excited about it, and it feels like it kind of like fits. Like, it's like, yeah, big franchise and it's like a ton of other games of that era and style
all getting remade.
Have already been
Square wouldn't remake
have already
a
been
game?
remade.
Yeah.
So it's like it would make sense.
Yeah, it's Chrono Trigger Interbirth or something. I don't know. The so what happened with this was Dragon Quest creator Yuji Horii was at Napoli Comic Con, and so in Italy, and what happened was somebody at Games Radar ended up seeing a unreleased video and then writing an article about this based on the unofficial video. Like, I shouldn't say unreleased, it was an unofficial video shot by somebody in the audience, and somebody who said they were there and was an attendee, and they wrote this article based on that said that, oh, it looks like Yuji Horii had mentioned on stage that Chrono Trigger's getting a remake. Then official footage comes out, and Games Radar had to write an update to the story. We would call that, these days, we'd call that a retraction, because they ended up writing a new story as well that said, actually, this didn't happen this way because official footage that I guess has better microphone picking up or whatever the hell's going on, and ended up, this was like this Yeah, that ended up happening that that Hori didn't say anything into the mic where he would have used the words Chrono Trigger, it sounds like, but that the interpreter said the words Chrono Trigger, and then that's why the host was like, "Whoa, what?" And then the interpreter spoke back to Hori, and Hori's like, "No, that's not what I said." And so I didn't watch either video. So I couldn't tell you if he ended up saying Chrono Trigger in Japanese or not. If he had said those words, I think that would be a bigger deal.
Yeah, because it was always...
Because then you know that
the
he said those
translator
words.
thing. And that's the thing. A lot of... if you've read articles about leaks that come through, typically from... I think I've seen some that were like done in Spanish and like interviews that were done in other languages that were then reprinted into English.
Yeah.
And it's always like, oh, they hinted at this thing, and it's like, no, they don't translate in that way, or
just the particular choice of words that they
people
did.
are trying to get that article out before everyone else, and they heard a thing, or you even have the idea of a lot of people really like Chrono Trigger.
Yeah. And
and a lot of people believe it's an inevitability that they'd remake that game. So we finally just found the moment when they let it slip.
Yeah, and it might be that in this, I will speculate on this. It might be that the interpreter was making some assumptions, because the Japanese language also doesn't really, like, if you're talking about something, sometimes the language can be a little vague because they don't always, it's like when we'll say, is that it? It's like, yep, that's it. And it's like, well, that's not what, or nope, that's it. Like that kind of thing. The ambiguity built in language, sometimes in referencing subjects and objects, can make that harder on people when they're doing interpretation, because you're like, how do I now build a sentence out of that? What were they talking about? And if the interpreter was just sitting there thinking, well, we were just talking about Chrono Trigger 3 sentences before, maybe that's what he's talking about, but no, that's not what he's talking about. That
live interpretation, live translation is really hard.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Although I do love the idea of him, the translate being like a remake of Chrono Trigger, and then the Japanese director being like, "What? No, that's not what we're talking about." And then the translator goes like, "Oh, yes, that is definitely what is happening."
Yeah. You need to stop talking. I need to keep saying more things.
When you say a phrase like "you have heard nothing" instead of "that's not what I said," that implies you heard something you weren't supposed to.
Well, and the thing is it's also "you have heard nothing," but that's English by way of Italian by way of Japanese.
I know. But again, the implication there is like translation is not word for fucking
localization is what we're talking about.
Localization versus translation arguments, but it's not. There's a reason people don't do that kind of translation most of the time.
And it's like, and there's you could do the thing where there's like the translator was also working with him while he was doing other meetings, talking about things that were secret. Yeah. And the translator maybe didn't even know that was supposed to be secret.
There could even be that, right?
What was it when we went to that restaurant in Japan and we used the Translate app on a thing because we were like, we can't quite see what we don't know what that says. And it was like, you have to buy in bulk.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, they mean we shouldn't split the check.
Yes. Yeah, it was literally like, you have to buy in bulk or whatever, the way that we put it. And then we were trying to figure that out. I'm like, oh, you're not allowed to split checks. You have to buy the meal in bulk. You have to buy it in one transaction.
Yeah.
You have to buy it all together. You're not allowed to split checks.
Why would Chrono Trigger getting a new update or getting a re-release be on this menu? That's weird. Yeah.
Look,
my translation app seems to be messed up.
8 of you sit down to a table at a restaurant. You have to buy in bulk. So that's it.
Yeah. Maybe that's the special thing they put on foreigners' menus. I mean, like, oh, you're gonna want to buy in bulk.
You're actually not wrong. That in a lot of ways, there's a lot of things that they'll put on foreigners' menus that are one way because it's meant to be like, we're trying to facilitate a very easy transaction here. Right. We don't want to spend a lot of time having to explain to you why it's this way. Like when another thing when we were It's just another tangent. We were in Japan at one restaurant. Heather and I were, as a family restaurant, we were trying to figure out, because like we want to get drinks, but they don't do like we'll bring you a ginger ale to your table or whatever, that kind of idea. Like it's not really that way, because they have drink bars.
Right.
So you just end up buying the drink bar so you can get whatever you want. And I was trying to find it, and finally I saw, drink, I see the thing, and it's in a separate section, and there's only 3 choices. And it's like, this is the drink bar. This is what this is. And I'm trying to read it, and I'm trying to get my phone to also translate it, but it's like 6-point text. Like it's barely readable. And there's 3 different prices for the drink bar. And we're trying to suss out, what does this mean? Because it's, again, 3 different prices. And I could get the middle one, which was, kids. Okay, if you have kids, this is what you pay for kids to have a drink bar. And then there's one above that says that it was like it was like food, but then it said something about dessert, and I was like, so what does that mean? And then I saw the one below it, and I was trying to figure out what that one meant. And finally, when I got that translated, it was like on its own, and I'm like, this is for kids. This is what you get if you get food. Dessert does not count as food. Pretty sure that's what that ended up saying. And then the other one was, this is if you're just here by your own and you just want to have the drink bar, it's this much money. And that's how we ended up having to figure it all out.
And then you ordered it, and then they go, okay, and then they go away and bring back like a big thing of fugu or something.
Yeah, he's like,
this translation app is very bad.
Needs a little work.
So yeah. Anyway, kind of a nothing story. I mean, this would be the fun way that this story could not end, but it would be great if Square could be like, that was not a real thing.
Yeah.
But also,
we're announcing this remake of. It's like Yuji Horii had no idea they were making a remake of Chrono Trigger. But
anyway,
I mean, the way I see it is every time there's a leak, you set back a potential game release announcement by about 6 months.
Yeah.
Just out of spite.
Yeah.
Or like because they have to do more work.
Out of spite.
Yeah.
I mean, I do a lot of things out of spite, so I assume everyone else does.
Which explains the whole Hollow Knight situation.
That's literally.
Yep. They're doing that out of spite.
Don't feel bad about that, because
I don't.
Apparently, never feel bad about it. You won't
feel bad for spite.
Yeah, because there's an apocryphal story, so maybe it is not true, but there's an apocryphal story about Steve Jobs standing backstage at Macworld, and they had 2 different sets of slides ready to go. And one was that Macs would continue to use PowerPCs, and the other one was Macs will be changing to Intel. And he basically made the call.
Even at that point, they hadn't decided.
Well, it was more of, if anything fucking happens on the way to Macworld that people let this thing go, that we're switching to Intel, I'm going to tell everyone we're staying on PowerPC. Like, it was literally that was like, I will be making this decision. Other people will not be making this decision for me. And I'm like, I don't know how true that is, but I can totally believe that it's true.
Or that at least Steve wanted people to think it was true.
There's that too, yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I'd tell people and want them to think it's true.
Yeah, you have that kind of power.
Speaking of things that want to be true, there is a secret language in Donkey Kong.
Well, sure.
Bonanza, or actually, yes, more accurately,
I wouldn't call it secret.
More accurately, a custom script, possibly a cipher. Not even really a cipher.
It's because you can.
It's a substitution.
Yeah, it's like what would have happened if divergent and then convergent evolution of writing styles, that we could have just ended up writing everything in English or with Arabic letters like this.
If we only had access to bananas,
right?
And we were like, we're not going to write stuff, but we got a lot of bananas, so we could put those down on the ground in some kind of semblance of words.
So yeah, this is just a fun story. This guy Too Crispy is the YouTuber, and I believe there actually is a link to the video in the description of this checkpoint.
I was not given one, so there is not.
I think one was added.
Okay.
Possibly, I don't know. Anyway.
That is unsubstantiated rumors.
He went through and figured out, figured out or decoded at least a good portion of the characters.
Yeah.
Apparently the Rosetta Stone in this case,
Yes.
the Rosetta Banana in this case was he found a screenshot or several screenshots that had like an item in the game with its name in the banana text and also the real name of the thing.
Yeah,
So then you go, aha!
he found like
A link was added.
it was very good because like he found a sign in the game that had a repeated letter. And so that was like, so then when he saw that's not enough to tell you anything, but yeah, it was very Rosetta Stone-ish because then they referred to in the game through playthrough as something called the chip exchange. And he's like, oh, wait, that has the right number of letters and the beginning and the end letters are both the same. So maybe exchange is what that word is. And if that's true, then what do all the rest of these mean? And as he started going through it, it was like, well, keep changing these things out until it all works and we'll see what happens. Like
I have to say, like I do like, well, you know, these kind of, you know, they said in the episode they did one for the Zonai language and stuff. Having I was playing was it the chant of so
Chant of
Senar, yeah. And because that does the thing where all the different languages in that game not only have their own characters, but they actually have their own grammar and their own actual, and like that's really interesting.
Right.
Like a straight letter conversion is like, okay,
you
sure.
like learn words in one language so that you can try to learn words in another language, and then like sometimes you have to bypass certain words between languages to get them.
And the subject and object are in different orders and different things.
Yeah.
It's super cool. But anyway, in this case, it is just a substitution thing of different letters. Luckily,
English.
The gorilla language apparently has the same grammar as English.
Yes.
Which is very helpful.
Yes, which I think is such a letdown. I would have loved it so much if it was French or if it was like Spanish or something else. Like I would have loved it if it was like, it could have been Romanian for all I care. Like it would have been really funny to find out that he's doing all this work and it turns out that actually no, all of these map to the Cyrillic alphabet,
Right.
And it's
like
all actually Ukrainian.
It's like the like code talker thing, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like not only do you encode it, but you encode a different language that nobody else knows.
Exactly. That would have been really funny, and it is kind of a bit of a letdown to me that it turns out it's like, oh, it's all English.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, we had the opportunity to do something really weird.
I thought the Zelda one wasn't in English. I thought it was in Japanese, but maybe.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it was.
Yeah, but I also may have just watched too many videos about Breath of the Wild, so I could be on me.
I like that the very last sign, because he updates. I'm just gonna spoil it for you guys in the video if you haven't watched it by now. That he comes back to be like, it's the middle of the night, and I just found out there was new footage, so I'm just adding this to the video. But it was like a very clear shot of a sign in the game that was all written in the Banana Bet, and when he translated it, the sign says, "Thank you for reading." And I'm like, great, perfect sign, no notes.
Should put that in a lot of video games.
Very polite, right?
Yeah.
You read this sign. The only thing it says is, thank you for reading the sign.
I mean, they did it in Pokemon. Pokemon has the unknown.
Yeah, unknown.
Right. They're all actually pictures of Pokemon?
Yeah, they're all...
Or pictures of letters?
They're a Pokemon that's shaped in different English letters.
Right.
And then there's like, I think they added an exclamation point and a question mark at some point. But I do find it incredibly difficult to read because of all the eyes they keep putting in things.
Oh, yeah.
And some of the patterning just doesn't look like
the
letter it's supposed to be.
If I unfocus my eyes and hold my phone out far enough, I can actually read reasonably fast because I'm like, okay, and this says okay,
right.
cool.
It's more of like just a really bad font rather than a whole other language.
It really feels like it.
It really is.
Yeah. And like Bionicle, I think was the same way. Is that Bionicle has like a whole substitution alphabet as well that maps to the English language, or rather, it maps to the standard like the 26 uppercase characters that we use in English.
Right.
Yeah, whatever you want to refer to that as, since they also
Yeah,
use it
that's
in
true.
French and Italian and Spanish. So
Usually it's uppercase letters.
Yeah.
It's not.
it's never lowercase.
It's never the lowercase ones.
The other thing I like is in Google Docs, where we were writing this story, Google Docs had issues with some of the lines of the banana, different expansions on banana alphabet.
Oh yes.
With the last one, banana nana 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 Ricky Dinky Doompa Loompa Scoopity Doo Jazz Hands. Google Docs suggested that perhaps what you actually meant to say was banana nana 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 Rinky Dink Dee Loompa or Rinky Dink Dee Oompa Loompa Scoopity Doo.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to spell it that Oompa Loompa wrong. Yeah.
It is not. It is Oompa Loompa Scoopity Doo, not Doompa Loompa Scoopity Doo.
Yeah.
Well, language is hard, Paul.
Yeah.
And computers are often wrong.
And then finally, that story was by Nelson, by the way. And the final story here was by Cameron. And it was talking about, using the EA having its big earnings call, talking about how wonderful its fourth quarter 2014 earnings were.
Yep.
And how excited they are about all the new projects they're going to start in 2025 and 2026. When, like 2 weeks ago, they laid off like 400 people.
Yep.
And canceled a bunch of projects. Using that as a jumping off point to, little capitalism 101 kind of thing going on here.
Yeah.
Giving some explanation, talking about some stuff, but, and there's resulted in some very in-depth conversations in the comments.
Not impolite either, I don't think. No.
Not that I've seen.
And not what you would usually find in YouTube comments. So, more power to them.
The longer you can keep it that way, the better, because generally I find even the impolite debates, the very polite debates that keep going, do at some point just fall apart and kind of fall into name calling, which you won't see because the filters will pick that up.
But
So keep to it.
I mean, it does, as people who are not obviously in on the ruminations of the CEOs of these big companies. It does really just sort of boggle the mind, like the big one everyone remembers is the makers of the thing with like the Hi-Fi Rush team.
Yes.
Getting rid of Nintendo or Microsoft simultaneously talking about how this is the kind of game that they need to be making more of.
Yeah.
And also closing that team and firing
and I mean,
that team.
that was either like,
and it's just like to try. It's like trying to understand what is happening.
well, those people aren't talking to each other for once.
Right, but it's just it's like, I get that they're greedy people who want all the money.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, it's like you're not even doing that. You're just making weird arbitrary decisions that don't make any sense.
Yeah, because it's very like, more games like this. Not you though, not that way though, not you though, not you though, no, not you.
So, but it doesn't make sense to us because they're the, as Cameron says, they're sort of perverse incentives, right?
Yeah.
There are many situations when you get into these big companies where spending a bunch of money to make a really good game and then selling that game for a reasonable price and making a lot of profit is not actually the best way for them to make money.
Yeah.
Which seems bizarre to say, but yeah, there's all sorts of weird ways for them to make money that don't actually involve producing video games.
And if
I mean, I'd be willing to try to understand the mindset of someone with a lot of money. In order to have that happen, they just need to give me a lot of money.
You'd be willing
And I'm not
to
advocating like that be like a crowdfund thing. I'm advocating that a person with a lot of money just give me a lot of their money so that they could be understood by me.
and you'd be willing to take on that burden.
Yes.
It's funny too because like the move towards the move of if we keep merging, then we will achieve greater efficiencies is always what gets said, right? It's like because the whole economy of scale thing. If I only have to pay one person to do everybody's accounting instead of having 3 different accountants on the that kind of idea.
It's kind of like what you've been doing playing with the threes game or whatever, right?
Yes.
That you've been,
Constant merging.
Constant merging makes numbers go bigger.
Exactly, and I did get a very big number the other day. I've managed to meet Waylon finally, which has taken me 10 fucking years. But I have a screenshot saved and everything. I'm so proud of myself.
So are you talking about threes?
Yeah, threes. Well, I want to talk about like Microsoft and and Activision Blizzard and all those kind of things. That the idea of if we keep acquiring smaller studios that make these good games, and it's always down to like we're not going to acquire a smaller studio that's making a shit game. It's like we're going to try to acquire studios that make these games, and we're going to pull that together, and we're going to try these acqui-hires or these IP acquisitions and like that kind of thing.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I was like
Aqua-hire.
I was like underwater hires.
Yeah.
Maybe they do that. I don't know.
It's more likely than you think.
But this whole thing of like as you start pushing that all together, I get the motivation on the big side because it's like we know that big means that we won't spend as much money because everything will be bigger and we can share resources. But let's ignore that. The motivation of a smaller company to be if I'm acquired by this big company, then suddenly my options open up because I will have access to larger budgets. I'll have access.
I mean, yeah, that used to be the dream about selling out, right?
Yeah.
It's you have safety and money and things, and you can do those bigger ideas.
Yeah.
And, not get bought out and then the door slammed in your face and then you can't make anything that
And
you were trying to make again.
And Cameron brings up the idea, like the unsustainability of those kind of things where you're trying to mush everybody together to make it bigger and bigger. And I'm like, and also anybody who makes like a hit product, if you make a hit product or a hit game or whatever, you go viral, whatever it is that you have to do to succeed in the business of attracting attention of somebody larger than you with more money than you. When those things happen, you always end up feeling like, well, that's because I'm so smart. That's because I'm so lucky. And there's this, I think that's also part of the problem is when you look at a company that is a smaller company that makes a hit game that said, we're not interested in selling out to anybody else. Sometimes that's inspired by the idea that I want to be in charge of my own destiny, but sometimes it's also like, I don't want to let anybody else, I know what it's like to be a part of that big thing and then actually realize that you're just a cog and you're not actually part of the whole process of making the thing. You're just like, to anybody else in this company, they don't actually give a shit about who I am or what it is that I do. But in my company that I run with like 10 people, we can be very certain of the things that we are doing for each other, and we can pay more attention to those things. And we came with a hit game or we go viral or whatever. But if we exist independently still, then we get to have control over our own destiny until we're done working, hopefully.
Oh, that's assuming that you can still keep paying the bills. Because sometimes when you're a small company, even if you look really successful, you are hoping for that cash injection so that you can keep going.
And the pressure of I want to be able to pay the bills. I want to be able to pay like everybody's salaries. I want to give people what they're worth. Hey, here comes Microsoft saying, well, we can make that happen for you. And you're like,
we can give you the resources you need.
Yeah, it isn't just a cash out for me to be like, I'm going to make $10 million off the back of this and then I get to go away. Sometimes there is that sense of everybody can have access to these resources now, and won't that be great? And because I'm struggling so much to get that. And it's like, well, we can do it this way. And you're like, yes, let me have that,
It's
so
like,
everyone can.
think of what an awesome game we could make
Yeah.
with like AAA studio resources.
Yeah.
And then you realize, and then you can get kind of sucked into the whole thing.
Because the bargain can be Faustian in a way that you're like, you've just given up control, and now everyone's telling you have to change things about this game that you want to make, or you end up making your second game or your third game or your sixth game or whatever that all of a sudden isn't that good. It didn't plug into what the market wanted, or it wasn't something that executed properly, and now you're like, well, now I'm really flailing because at least before I want to keep this job, or I want everyone to keep their jobs, and nope, that's our studio's getting chunked up and everyone has to go to all these other places. It's like, yeah, you gave up that ability because you thought that every game you make from that point on is going to be golden. It turns out it's not.
Well, yeah, because as much as we don't like to admit it, the luck RNG stat is a little bit higher than you think.
Yeah. And you want to think that like, oh no, people will appreciate a good thing floating to the top, and it's like not always. Sometimes there's great games that just get like lost.
Yeah.
Anyway. Sorry.
Are you?
Monster Tale is a really good game. For the
Yeah, I
DS.
like Monster Tale.
It was a great game, yeah. And it never got its due, I think. Yeah.
I mean, they're like ages and ages ago. There was a thing early on.
They're going to try a
in
3DS remake
in the Switch life cycle. They said they were going to bring it to Switch. I don't think they did.
Yeah.
I don't know if that company even exists anymore.
Yeah.
But Monster Tale was good.
It was a good game.
It was for the DS.
Speaking of 3DS.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what kind of tales you will not be able to get on your 3DS? Louvre tales.
Mm-hmm.
The well-known
You had to go to the
game series.
museum, I think, to get that, didn't you?
So yeah, the Louvre did have this. It was like kind of a big thing. Like it was promoted a lot on Nintendo's point of view, and it was like had some custom software and stuff. That they had 3DSs being used as the audio guide and audio, and also
Also
ancillary
like a
stuff.
visual guide, because you could they had visuals of the things you were looking at that you could turn around and look at as well, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I think it was it was just like, it feels like sort of at the time they were making this, it was like the most powerful, inexpensive, and reliable
Yeah, that's three things crossing over each other. Yeah,
thing with a screen that they could program for it, and apparently it went really well. I would assume they haven't released it. I would assume whatever's replacing it is something like on your phone or something, because that's more common these
that
days.
seems pretty likely.
Yeah. And that's actually even more maintainable, because you're probably going to end up target an OS as opposed to targeting a device.
Yeah, but it's a neat idea. To have it. I don't know if there are any other, like if that software was maybe like adapted to other museums and stuff. I don't know if other museums had I mean, obviously there are lots of audio guide things, but
on the plus side, assuming that museum has a bunch of 3DSs that they're not going to use anymore, they will be able to sell those for probably at least cost or above, given how the way used stuff has gone.
I wonder how locked down they were overall. Like, because it probably wasn't cartridge based either. It was probably the Louvre software was installed on the thing.
It's probably like, and also like I feel like that would be like a probably pretty hard use.
Yeah.
I mean, when we went to
like a typical 3DS is not used like 12 hours a day every day.
When we went to the Nintendo Museum, they had a box copy of that software in the case.
Yeah, and they had it mentioned on the back of the display that they were like
which, I mean, sure, they could have just mocked up for that, but
I didn't mention that.
I kind of love the idea that the Louvre software would actually be like boxed and had like a, the like Nintendo seal of approval and all that.
So when you when you go to the Nintendo Museum, whenever you do that, when you're on the second floor is where that's where the big museum-ish stuff is. All the fun gaming stuff is on the first floor, and a lot of the
interactive exhibits.
Are on the first floor, and all of the old like cards, like the Karuta cards and the Hanafuda cards and stuff, are all like on display on the first. But on the second floor, for all the video gaming stuff, not all the video gaming stands, but the video gaming displays on the second floor, they have these big curved displays, and on the inside of the curve is just a collection of cartridges of like, here's the Japanese version of Super Mario Brothers, and then here's the US version, here's the EU version, all three of them beside each other.
And if the EU didn't have a version, or if a region didn't have a version, it had a tiny plaque that said this region did not get a version.
Or sometimes they'd have a little card that says, this game was released by a different publisher.
Yeah, that one was weirder.
Yeah, because they meant that this was released, but we're not going to put a copy of the game cartridge in our... And I'm like, you have lots of third-party stuff on display here. Anyway, doesn't matter. On the back, though... because they'd also have like a little standalone display in front of the curved part that they'd show you the actual unit or examples of the actual units, and then they'd also have like, sometimes they have some that are taken apart so you can have a look inside them. But on the outer curve of the thing, when you go around the back, they'd have a whole display devoted to, let's talk about what the system was and what it means and the challenges that we were trying to overcome and world first ideas for all this kind of stuff. And on the back of that, they did have a section that talked about the 3DS was like, the Louvre thing was like included on the backs of one of those displays to be like, this was something else that we were doing with the 3DS, as it wasn't just about, playing games. We were like, we took the education bent to it as well.
And you might think, boy, but they don't have anything about the Virtual Boy there. But they do. They have a whole section for the Virtual Boy.
Yeah.
And you can look through some glasses they're in the wall at different heights. So everybody can get a good look at things in red.
But I figure because they didn't...
Are they real Virtual Boys, like embedded in the wall?
I think they are.
Or are they just like...
I don't know.
A screen that emulates what the Virtual Boy
Well,
did
it's
look
two
like.
screens. Like
Right,
it's, when you look
yeah.
through, it's
Definitely
two
has
different
the two.
things. So they might have... I don't know if it's actual old Virtual Boys or not that you're looking through.
But there's got to be a bunch of them they didn't sell.
Yeah, there's probably just two screens that are showing the thing at the right whatever. So you're not. It's not like you're watching red LEDs doing whatever. I think you're just watching screens that are in red and black. I
And
can't
by the
tell.
way, the other thing you'll experience at this museum, completely at no extra cost, is listening to other people talk out loud and have opinions and be wrong
so
in real
funny.
life and be pedantic about shit to other people they've dragged to the museum who are clearly not as interested in this stuff as they are. And that's just, you can't buy stuff like that.
We were smug as fuck for like hours, just being like, "Oh my god, I can't believe they just said that." Oh my god, listen to what that guy's saying. Oh my god, yeah,
That'd be
like pretty good.
Like, forget, it's like, oh, they don't want you to take pictures,
Yeah,
or whatever and stuff. But just an audio feed of the people like looking at particular things that you could just like tune in, like just like a live like a live like radio broadcast. You
Yeah.
could just like tune into it whenever you wanted and see what stupid things people are saying.
it's weird. Well, it's weird too because I mean, like that. Heather's saying that it's actually a good point because I'm like, we're in a museum, which is an educational facility, and you would assume that then therefore those people would show up and they'd see things and there would be things to educate them on why things are a certain way or what this stuff is. But it's not that kind of museum either. It is really
Not
about coming in.
totally, no.
It's there to look at a lot of stuff and to see things and to kind of like bring back those memories of if you were playing stuff from certain eras. But and it's fun to watch the like younger people run around and look at things and be like, "Oh shit, you had no idea what the NES
Yeah,
was like. You have no clue what any of this is about. That's fine."
Yeah.
I'm kind of imagining like
Also, dude who was explaining stuff to his girlfriend completely wrong, don't take your girlfriend to a date like that and be pedantic at her. Fucking go elsewhere.
It costs money to get in, and you have to win tickets. So I mean,
know.
like he must have said to her, "I want to do this thing with you," and she's like, "Okay, we'll go do this thing." But
Yeah,
you
but I don't
you
think that's a
it-
good date.
You don't think it was like a mutual thing?
I think in some ways that it was. It's like, oh, that sounds like fun. You can play with the big controllers and stuff, and maybe she likes to do that too. But there was a lot of like. She was like, like there's a lot of that to the things he was saying, and I'm like, oh, dude, you need to slow down. But I wish that there were people there to like the one thing that I wish that they had was more contextualization of stuff to say to people that it's like, at the time, this is the best we could do, or at the time, this was an extremely cheap way to make this kind of item, or at the time we did it this way because of X reasons.
Right.
And like more of that idea of that this is why these things exist the way that they do, or this was the motivation of the company at the time.
Ooh, they had some concept stuff of different controllers that they didn't use. And let me tell you, the N64 controller is definitely the way it should have been.
Yeah,
It
oh
could have been-
Jesus.
Versus
been
what they
so
could
much
have been.
worse.
It could have been.
Oh my
no,
God.
it was fine, and we should all be okay with it.
Yeah.
Especially since we've moved on, and it's okay.
They had to talk Miyamoto down to 3 hands instead of 10 hands.
God, it
is how
was.
they wanted it originally.
There was some wild ideas, and what's funny is that all of them were the things that over the years you remember seeing like as mock-ups that they would show in like some of the magazines. Be like, we got to see the mock-up of this controller. Well, they had those.
Yeah,
they were
it was
all,
pretty
and
cool.
they looked awful because they were all mock-ups, right? But
Well,
you
yeah,
could see
so
them
you
in
had
real
stuff
life.
that had like clay, like
Yeah.
attached to like a piece of plastic that was reused, and yeah.
I'm kind of imagining the equivalent of like going to a natural history museum with like an 8-year-old who knows what the best dinosaur is.
Yes.
And is like has to explain to you in great detail why this dinosaur is the best dinosaur.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. No,
Yeah.
that moment was cool. I did see a person who looked like they were in their 50s with like a younger kid, and they were like, okay, but you have to see, this is what Fire Emblem used to look like when I played it.
Yeah.
And it was the cutest thing ever.
Anyway,
Yeah, I can't keep talking about the museum, otherwise we'll be here all day.
yeah, there were several requests in the comments for a 3-hour-long Beej and Heather just talk about their trip stream.
We'd have
I'll
to
leave that up to you.
No.
I'd have to bring in so many visual aids.
You'll hear
Oh
stories
no,
throughout.
people will hate that.
You'll probably hear stories throughout streams. I'm not doing a dedicated stream with him. He'll just ramble on, and we'll just sit off in the corner. It'll be very boring for me.
We had to buy the max size bag from Don Quixote to get all of our stuff home. Not just like larger size or XXL size. This literally had a size printout that said max size. I'm like, I guess it's the biggest we can get.
There were some choices that were made.
Anyway,
What's our next story?
let's talk about some of the things that didn't make it into the episode checkpoint. Starting with some other Destiny news.
Oh,
so, and I saw some people in the comments being like, "You did one story about Destiny, not what about Star Wars?" Because
Well, I'm glad to know that they're reading the news so that they know all the stuff that we're not doing.
yeah, so Destiny is doing a tie-in with Star Wars, and as many people have rightly pointed out, Destiny does have a little bit of Star Wars DNA in it. You know,
Okay.
in its at its base level.
Because it's in space?
It's space wizards with laser swords
Oh, okay.
running around like
That kind of DNA, like the way you have DNA in your hotel sheets. Okay, I know what you're saying.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Wait, does Dune not have space wizards with swords? Because I thought Dune had space wizards.
it does.
Yeah.
Space wizards show up surprisingly often.
Okay, cool.
In different sci-fi things.
So it's just sci-fi. got it.
Anyway, but
What?
Destiny is doing an actual Star Wars tie-in, Lucasfilm authorized and everything. It's called Renegades, and you're gonna actually get for real lightsabers. There's gonna be and Graham talked about this, a little bit of this after the show, but there's gonna be Darth Vader skin, a Kylo Ren skin, and I think General Grievous. They said
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was
The
also
best
a
they
little,
could do.
well, he's got 4 arms, so
Yeah.
it's like, but
John Grievous cosplay.
yeah,
They couldn't
Well-
stick some extra fake arms on?
I mean, that would be funny, right? As you move your arms around, they kind of flop about a bit.
Yeah.
or they're like attached, like they do like
the strings?
like spider arms.
Oh,
like
I
they
see. Yeah.
like they're like attached with the string, so they just like move at the same time.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
you're
exactly. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I know. I think they could have done better.
People, there's a lot of people have been like, oh, it's just like Fortnite.
Well,
Well, I mean, Fortnite is the most known for skins.
Fortnite is also actually doing a Star Wars tie-in right now too. So it's like a cross. It's a multimedia thing.
Has Fortnite put Destiny characters in their game yet?
I don't think so.
Oh.
got Zur in there running around.
Obviously the Destiny, the Destiny community is
Destiny and Fortnite have crossover.
I wouldn't say split in this because it's not an even division. Most people are not super happy about it. Some people like Star Wars and are like, that'll be cool. But I like there's some people who are like, it's not like it actually is. It's not like it's actually Darth Vader.
Right.
Which I saw this sort of a comment change. Someone's like, it's not actually like they're putting Darth Vader in.
No.
It's supposed to be an outfit.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's still the thing. And then the person's like, that's like worse. It means that people within the context of the like world of Destiny, people are cosplaying as Darth Vader.
Yep.
So does that mean Star Wars, the movie, exists within the...
No, the novels. Star Wars, the novels exists in the Destiny universe.
Either maybe there's old found footage
of
these movies, like not even the complete movie, just like parts of it.
Just the holiday special.
God
the
damn,
only part that has been retained.
It would be so funny if it was just like there'd be just like a moment where at the Citadel they're just showing like 1977 theatrical release, and just there's a bunch of Guardians sitting down there with their ghosts or whatever the hell the things are called, and they're all like, yeah, fuck yeah, they're just loving this whole like thing, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Like,
that was one of the movies that my brother and I did for the Fight the Future post-apocalyptic young adult stuff.
Oh, 77, yeah.
One of the movies we did was called The Boy and His Dog, which is, I do not in any way recommend this movie. It is
sad.
No, it's horrible.
Oh, I see.
It's just a bad movie.
Well, it's.
And how dare they drag down a dog's
it covers
name with
it covers some. It's got some extremely bad or disturbing themes and stuff in it, cannibalism and assault and various bad things.
Wow.
All right.
But
holy shit.
That's a weird title for
Boy
a movie.
and His
Dog.
Anyway. But one of the things that sort of is near the beginning there, it's sort of Mad Max style, post-apocalyptic, whatever.
Oh, I see.
But at one point, the guy goes to a movie theater. Like, there's this place that's like a movie theater. It's like a, neutral zone.
Right.
And you go in, you go to this thing, and a guy has like got some old film like movie reels,
and he's running them all the time.
And so you like go in, and like in this case, he pays with like a can of tuna or something, right? So it's like, which I loved this idea of like in this sort of Mad Max hellhole kind of world, somebody's found like a kind of an orthogonal approach. It's like, rather than
how am I going to survive? Yeah,
it's like, and it's like I need to survive in this wasteland, but rather than being like, a murderer or a horrible person or a scavenger or like hiding from everybody and
I feel like there's some non-murdery jobs you can pick.
I mean, in Mad Max, not really.
It's hard. Yeah,
there's got to be
that's the point.
Janitorial.
Yeah,
until you have to kill somebody.
Some like source of milk.
But
I no.
But the idea of like you're running. It's like you're running this movie theater.
Yeah.
So it's like you're providing a service that everybody is like, okay, we all like this.
Yeah.
So don't kill this guy.
Yeah.
And we'll just, everybody, this is like neutral area. You have to like give up your guns to go in.
Yeah. And he's the only one that knows how to make this happen. So we're completely fine with the idea of this kind of situation. That's good.
But like I said, I
don't watch the film.
In no way recommend the book or the movie. Anyway.
Weird that it was a guy who did that instead of like a guy who ran, I don't know, a comic book shop or something. Or a library.
Speaking of other things that I don't necessarily recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, whole new segment. We don't recommend this.
Bubsy.
Hey!
Guess who's 32nd anniversary it
the
is.
first one.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm
actually,
gonna-
I actually probably shouldn't badmouth Bubsy.
I like the first one. I don't know
I
about
don't
the
know if
other
the game-
ones
I don't
because
know
I
if
don't know
they're
if they're
good or
any
bad.
good. But
Yeah.
I played the first one as a kid and I enjoyed it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I played the first one as a kid as well and thought it was awful. So
maybe you were just bad at video games.
He
Sounds like a skill issue to me, Child Beach.
he I believe he had attitude,
he did, yes.
and there were also lots of puns.
There was that too. Yeah.
But
and
yes,
lots of spoken word stuff.
it's Bubsy's 32nd anniversary, I think, from of the first game was 93. And in celebration, they're bringing out Bubsy in the Perfect Collection. When I say that there's a lot of puns in the game,
So mostly cat puns.
that's the level of puns.
I also want to I also want to thank you for pronouncing the colon. You left in just the
Bubsy
right
in.
amount of time for the colon, which is a very normal thing to have Bubsy in colon the Perfect Collection. That's the very normal way to do colons.
Yes.
Yeah, you fought like the Woolies, I think was the bad guy's name in the
Yes.
first one. Again, I didn't play the other two.
Because you also want to pick up balls of yarn and stuff
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Feline nostalgic.
That's
Bubsy in the Perfect Collection.
I like the feline nostalgic. I do like that kind of pun. That is good.
Sorry, I don't know if you can see this very well. Can I zoom in on this
no.
picture?
Oh, yeah.
It's
there you
important.
go.
Do you see this? It's Bubsy in colon the perfect, like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
separate out the in, and it's just
That was an argument. That was three people having an argument, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
this was how it was solved.
coming soon. Don't forget to wish list.
Yep, love it too. That's good. I have no problem with Bubsy the character whatsoever. I'm like,
No.
fine. Good job, Acclaim. You did something. I have a problem because I played the first game, very excited to play the first game, thinking this is going to be a very interesting thing, and found it damn near uncontrollable.
What did you play it on?
Super Nintendo.
I'm pretty sure I played mine on Sega.
Yeah.
Oh,
Could be a difference there too.
could again also
Actually,
be
it would have
a
to
skill
because I
issue.
didn't have a Super Nintendo.
So it includes 8 titles.
There's 8 games for Bubsy? That can't be right.
Including,
What?
oh my God.
Oh, I see. They've got multiple versions. I was like, it's got 8 titles, but I'm only seeing 4 here, except they've got multiple. They've got the multi versions of them.
Well, I mean, so there's the thing, right? Because so the Bubsy in his first game, right?
Which is Bubsy in Claws Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
Yes, which was out for Genesis, Super
Nintendo,
Nintendo, and Super Famicom.
So I guess that counts as 3 games,
Which is
because they
weird.
actually have like the 3 different versions.
Because the Super Nintendo and Super Famicom are the same system, just in different regions. That's weird, but whatever. But then,
Bubsy 2
yeah,
for,
Game Boy.
for Game Boy, Genesis, and Super NES.
And the thing is like in that case, the Game Boy version is going to be a markedly different game.
Yeah.
Right.
That's going to be on the other
definitely.
2 systems. The Genesis and SNES versions might also be very similar, but they might also have had to have made a couple changes here and there, perhaps anyway. But Bubsy in Fractured Furry Tales for the Atari Jaguar.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there.
Nope. No clue.
Holy shit.
I bet a lot of people haven't played that one.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's what happens. I mean, funny that the cat game is on the Jaguar, but also should have had one on the Lynx as well. That would have been
there you
very
go.
good.
And then also Bubsy 3D for PlayStation.
Yeah, that one I've heard is bad.
Yeah,
I think-
that was
I
a
think-
watch and play game.
I think Bubsy did not, didn't make
Survive the-
didn't make that trend. Yeah, there's a whole genre of
The mascot game is
of 2D
a weird
2D
area.
game stars that didn't
Like-
make the transition.
Like Bubsy barely hung on in that hang on poster for relevancy of any kind. Bubsy 3D was never likely to be a good game when they announced that.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Bubsy is actually owned by Atari.
Yeah.
That's why it came out for the Jaguar.
Yeah. Well, because originally it wasn't owned by Atari. It was made by, I think, either by Accolade or Acclaim, and I think it was made by Acclaim. And then I guess at some point it got sold to Atari.
I think Atari owns Acclaim.
Oh, they acquired them at some point early on, I guess. Okay. Which is funny in itself because the whole point of Activision was supposed to be all the people who came out of Atari, and then the whole point of Acclaim was everybody who came out of Activision. And they kept picking names for their companies that were one thing higher in alphabetically than Atari was.
Cool. This is also coming out with from Limited Run.
Yeah.
By the way,
Yeah.
So it will be a physical release.
Yes, but you virtually downloaded or some other horse shit, or is limited? I'm giving limited run games a lot of static about this because I'm a little irritated to find out that they're trying to make a physical version of a game, but then they were
right. There was that other story we had,
but it's all game key card, and I'm like, what the fuck, my guy?
The Nintendo game version of it was on a game key card,
Yeah.
but don't worry, Paul's got you covered with a story.
Yeah. In fact, there's a story this week on Ars Technica about how long about the idea of like, so your PlayStation or your Switch 2 virtual key card,
your game key card,
digital key card.
Yeah, the one that you buy that's physical, but it's just an authorization to let you play.
So it's like, so at what point is that just e-waste? Right, like at what point?
How long will they last?
How long will it be? Not how long will they last, like physically, but how long will the purchase of that game actually last?
I have to assume it's until they shut the Switch 2 servers for that part of the eShop down.
Right.
Right.
Which, and this article points out that as these kind of things go, Nintendo has kept the longevity of these downloadable things longer than most.
Well, you can still download games on the Wii.
Right.
You just can't buy them.
Yeah, you can't buy new games, but the ability to download things has
and that's
stuck
the same
around.
for the Wii U. It's the same for the 3DS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is as far back as Nintendo has had online.
Yeah, to do any sort of online purchasing whatsoever.
So, I mean, obviously, you're still dependent on the largesse of Nintendo to continue that going.
That
which
fact
is not
in dispute.
And also the fact that because they're like, you can still get you can still re-download your virtual console games that you purchased on the Wii. You can still re-download those if you want to.
But because of the era, your Wii has to be. It's kind of locked to that specific Wii. They hadn't hit the account system until more recently.
But it does. I mean, what it does say to me is that virtual console games are a lot smaller than modern games, for one thing. So the amount of space that's taking up, like in just terms of disk space, is not a ton. They just have to keep the servers operating. Is part of the thing they'll have to do. And then so we get into the Wii U era where you're buying proper games, and 3DS where you're buying like proper full games that could be like into the gigabytes. And it's like now we start to expand that outward. So the question is also all the virtual console stuff on the Wii. I'm sure that was like, even though you can get like Castlevania and like all that kind of stuff owned by Konami or Capcom Games or whatever, that agreement, that decision that was made, I'm sure was very like ironclad in the contract that, you're allowing us to sell this game on the Wii, not until you decide to take it down, Konami, but until the server shuts down, essentially. That Konami, I don't think, can just turn around and say, we're not allowing anybody to buy or re-download their copy of Castlevania on the Wii. I'm assuming that might be part of the thing. Who knows what that means for other third-party games in the eShop over like the last 10 years or so? Will there be a thing where it's like, if all my game is on the eShop, but I want to take it down for some reason, can I still go and take it down? Maybe you can't, because it's like, well, we've mothballed that, and that means anybody with a Switch can go download their old games still.
I mean, you probably wouldn't bother, because the only people you're going to stop is people who already can download their games
and want to keep playing
and want to keep playing them.
Yeah.
And that's assuming that they need to re-download those games, and they don't just have them downloaded already.
And the only real reason why
Like
you
there's just
might
it just doesn't seem like a lot. It seems like
Yeah.
a lot of effort.
there's a lot of like little corner cases, like you've lost the IP to be able to be allowed to have that game anymore, or you need to shut down your own servers that support online play for that game. And so if you leave the game up so people can re-download it, they won't be able to do anything about connecting to it to your server anyway. Like,
Yeah,
there
I
could
mean,
be-
they're not talking about online play games.
yeah. They're talking about just like single player stuff.
Because
I
most of
assume.
anything that had like online play on like the 3DS, you can't online
play anymore
with
anyway. But you could still download the client, I'm assuming. You'd still be able to.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those games still had single player campaigns and stuff.
The anyway, according with this article is saying that like assuming that they kept the servers active for as long as they have kept the Wii servers active.
Yeah.
October 2043 would be the current time that it would be active until.
Wow.
Kyle Orland, the senior gaming editor at Ars Technica, saying, or to put it another way, I think it's highly likely that I will become e-waste before any Switch 2 game keycards. Which, I mean, yeah, it's a positive way saying that. Yeah, I mean, it's encouraging that particular aspect of it might not be an issue, but there's all the other parts of it.
I mean, there's other parts to it. There's for one thing, Nintendo has switched over to an account-based system, so you don't have quite the same thing of you lose your 3DS, now you can't re-download it.
Yeah.
But you still need to have that key card, that cartridge in your slot to play, which means if it goes missing, it doesn't matter that you can still download that game.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to play it.
Yeah. I'm for all the things that I don't like about game key cards, or the aspects that I'm not in love with, I will say that when you look at it in that larger aspect of like, look at what Nintendo has done previously and look at for how long the company has been around for, and look at their own motivation for trying to continue things from the Wii era, then seems pretty safe to say that they will probably be interested in maintaining that for quite some time.
I don't have an interest in buying a cartridge-based game that has a key card, game key card on it.
Yeah.
But
like you might as well just get a digital.
I just
version
might
at
as well
that
get
point,
digitally, especially because I can just like most of the people I lend stuff to are going to be on my family thing, so I can do the virtual lending.
Oh right, yeah. Now they have.
So
that,
I don't
yeah.
really need like a physical thing to lend out to people.
I wonder if
That
that was
said-
like them working backwards from they knew that they would have to have virtual key cards, so like they wanted to set it
No.
up.
I mean, that said,
Yeah.
the my understanding is it's not like a code in a box, so it doesn't like tie the game to your account,
Right.
which
It does tie
I-
it to
ideally-
the card, which is interesting. yeah.
ideally should mean I should be able to sell that card
Yeah.
if I decide I want to try a game but not sure I want to keep it.
Like a Quark Express dongle.
Which is interesting.
And my better thing is it's very clear on the packaging on the front of the box that there is no game on that card. And so I'm not going to run into I bought this game, it has 2 games on it. Well, actually there's a code in the box for the second game. Or only half the game's actually on the card, but you'd only know that because somebody mentioned it online.
Yeah. So if you end up having to sell it at some point, it's like, well, you've already registered the one game for yourself, and now when you sell the other game, it's like, well, it only comes with one game this time, dude, not both of them. So I guess I'm selling you this for half price or something.
Yeah,
or
like I
maybe
think
it's
there
not
are
worth
some
selling.
positives to it. I don't like it, but I think there are some positives.
We have a piece of software here in the company. Actually, I keep forgetting about DaVinci Resolve Studio. Its dongle is an SD card, and I just find it very weird that and now of course the Switch 2 game key card idea, that you have a rectangle of plastic that goes into an SD card slot on your computer so that you can actually use a program, right? And because I'm used to the old idea of you have a serial dongle that you have to plug in, and then you have, or a parallel port dongle that you have to plug in so that the computer will talk to that to confirm whether or not you're allowed to actually use Quark Express or whatever the hell the software is that you have. And that is how I remember that working. It's a thing that you plug into a port and then it hangs off that, and if somebody else needs to use it, then you take it off and you run over to them and plug it into their computer so that they can use it, and like that kind of thing. It's like, this thing is worth like hundreds of dollars. If you ever lose this, we won't be able to use the software ever again.
Right.
Like, it's so...
Sounds awful.
It was the worst of times. It was the worst of times, but it was also the way that they were trying to fight people copying software, which is why InDesign ended up winning, because Adobe didn't give a shit if everyone copied InDesign. They just wanted to kill Quark Express.
And then they were like, hey, why don't we just make it always online?
Yeah.
Solves that problem.
Solves that problem.
Speaking of Switch 2 things, we know that Elden Ring will be coming to Switch 2.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
They announced that as part of the Switch event. But now, one of the things, because there was a From Software event just a few days ago, where they showed a bunch of stuff off. And one of the things that they showed off is the version of Elden Ring that comes out for Switch 2 will actually be a new version of Elden Ring, and the Tarnished Edition.
Yeah.
Which,
All
and the
right.
things from this edition will be, it's sort of, they're bringing out a DLC for Elden Ring at the same time. And so, like, these things will be sort of
Everybody gets it.
backported into all the other editions.
Oh,
Okay.
but it'll also be on the Switch too.
But
Okay.
but this will come out on the Switch 2. Yeah.
Meant to celebrate
So it's the Tarnished Edition for the Switch 2, but then everybody else will get the Tarnished Pack, which will add the same stuff to that.
What
thing.
are they getting?
They will be getting, for one thing, there are 2 new character classes dubbed the Knight of Ides and the Heavy Knight. They haven't said what the difference is, what these will do. Presumably, the Heavy Knight will be specializing in like heavy weapons or whatever, or maybe he'll be just a little pudgy.
Yeah,
slow
maybe.
slow movement.
It's just like
It's either Ornstein or Smo. I know which one is not which.
his belly's just like sticking out from in between the
Yeah.
parts. It's like
little out of
it's like,
shape.
dude, you don't. It's like, yeah, maybe a little overweight, but you don't have to. Like, that's, my name is not the Heavy Knight.
Yeah, exactly. Or it'll be like Guts from Berserk with just a giant ass sword that doesn't make a lot
Okay,
of
so
sense.
new 2 character classes.
That's really cool.
And then there'll be new appearances for Torrent, your spirit horse, and 4 new sets of armor, weapons, and combat skills as well. So that's pretty cool. So this is like, it's kind of an interesting way of doing it, of being like, the Switch 2 version is going to have all this cool stuff, which will then show up in everything else. But
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I do prefer it when when companies are like, hey, we want to make this thing and we're going to put extra stuff on it. Oh, you already own it on something else. Don't worry, there's a DLC pack you can get.
and then the Switch 2, or Shadow of the Erd Tree, which is the DLC for
Expansion pack.
Elden Ring that has already been released.
Yeah, Game of the
will
Year.
also be included in the base game of the Switch 2 edition. So
Game of the Year.
I feel like they're doing right by their Switch customers. So that's nice.
The release date just says 2025, but I will be upset if Elden Ring shows up at the Game Awards as a game that can win Game of the Year just because it put out a Switch version.
Oh, put it this new DLC. These 2 new characters means that it qualifies for Game of the Year.
I will be.
Right.
I
DLC needs to be a separate topic, not topic, category for that show.
I hope. Now I actually kind of hope that happens.
Yeah, they should win Game of the Year 3 years in a row.
Well,
I don't even remember if they won Game of the Year last year for Shadow of the Erd Tree. I don't
think so. I think they were
no.
nominated. They won some.
they got
stuff.
nominated,
Yeah.
but they weren't.
But I feel
It was the topic of hot debate.
I feel it is my right to keep mocking them for the fact that they were eligible in that way, even if that isn't like FromSoft's fault that
Yeah.
they didn't submit themselves to be Game of the Year. But it's like, I think I need to righteously mock you for that. Because
This is why I want them to win.
Yeah.
Because it is such an ultimately, pointless exercise of an award ceremony.
Well, I mean, especially since you
to-
get like a minute to be on that stage, if you get to be on that stage and you're not shoved
But-
in between the commercials.
It would just sort of further emphasize the clownish nature of the whole thing.
Yeah. It's like it's just about sucking somebody's dick. We don't know who it's going to be this year, but no, yeah, Astrobot won this year. That's right, and good for them.
Oh, maybe Astrobot will get some new DLC, like extra Elden Ring horses.
Ooh.
Every time a new game comes out,
They
Astrobot might get new DLC.
Yeah.
I can go for this. This is like Kirby for me.
Right.
Because every time there was like a new Smash character, it was like, well, what does Kirby look like?
Right.
So this is good. I'm fine with this.
Citizen Sleeper.
I don't know anything about the game.
It's a super neat. It's sort of almost like a visual novel kind of, not quite visual novel, but it is sort of a text-based game.
Is it the one where you have to give out resources and people are going to die if you don't give out enough resources, or is that a different game?
That sounds like Frostpunk.
Yeah, this is. It's like you're a sort of a robot or a android, and it's basically. It's sort of a choose your own adventure kind of like you have a bunch of stuff that you can do, but you do only have like at the beginning of the day you like roll dice basically, and so you have like all the numbers of your dice, and then you have to assign those to different things during the day, like different projects that you want to do during the day, and of course you don't have enough dice to do all the projects that you want to do, and it has a sort of evolving narrative.
We want to do one of those
structure.
realistic things,
and it's. And it has a quite in-depth narrative that.
Can I upgrade my dice to D20s?
No.
Well,
It's all D6s. Oh, well.
All
Yes, it's that.
D6s. Yeah.
I hear it's actually quite good.
Yeah.
I think they did some talking some on
there's
it.
a sequel already. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
and there's a sequel already. And now there's going to be a board game
Nice.
called Citizen Sleeper Spindlejack. So
Watch out for the Spindlejack.
in ways, because I mean, like I said, the sort of main gameplay loop of the video game is you sort of roll dice, and then you have all those numbers, and then you can kind of spend them throughout the day,
Right.
to enhance or sort of reduce different things. And so obviously that kind of lends itself to a board game style thing. But it's supposed to be. It sounds like it's a super neat idea. In the far spindle of the starward belt, spindlejacks are notorious. Slicing through the station on their custom air bikes, they courier messages, packages, and anything else too sensitive to be fed into the station's crumbling and haunted networks.
Wait, they're just mail carriers?
Because usually you refer to something as like a chimney jack or somebody who like puts up or takes down chimneys. I assume that the whole idea of a spindle jack was somebody who's putting up and taking down spindles, but
That's what a chimney jack is?
I think so. Yeah.
Sharing the cavernous transit tunnels with hulking cargo haulers, they are widely assumed to have some kind of death wish. But as one of their number, it's the rush, the competition, and the community that keeps you riding.
So they
It's
don't
a solo
have
game, which is kind of cool.
high retirement rate is what I'm hearing.
Anyway, it's available on it's available on itch.io as a free download thing. But I believe it is actually like official, but it is sort of a fun thing. It was originally released for Citizen Sleeper Day.
Yeah, we might be in a time of
So it's sort of a promotional thing.
You need to download your board games
Okay.
and provide your own dice.
Wait, so you can go to itch.io, you can download it.
And so you get like the manual or like the sort of pamphlet that gives you the rules and a map and stuff and tells you how to play it.
And
it's sort of a print and play thing.
Does it charge even for the instructions or any of this?
Doesn't look like. I think it was done as like a promotional thing.
Oh, that's rad as hell.
Yeah.
Well, wow, damn. Okay. Because I was looking at this being like, I wouldn't mind playing this with some friends. Oh, it's a solo game. Okay, well, maybe I could play it myself. Do I want to just sit and roll dice? Well, then I have to feel like I need to go buy a game and then go sit and roll dice.
We have so many D6s.
And then I was like, yeah, we have D6s all over the place. I'm like, and it's a free game to print out and just play. Oh, shit, yeah, I could just go do this. But now am I just sitting at a desk just rolling dice by myself? Like, is that fun?
What's wrong with that?
I don't know.
What do you mean is that fun?
That's secretly what a video game is.
I know, right? That was the thing.
Have you never played solitaire?
It reminds me of. I was expecting it to be like sound even more involved because I was kind of expecting it to be a lot like.
Cheap ass games.
Yeah, like cheap ass games have kind of that where there's feels like there's a hair of a narrative built into it as well. You're also building that with other people. But or maybe like what people are mentioning Adam in chat, like that's a perfect game for Adam to play. I'm like, well, is there a story in it? Because the story prop might not actually spell itself out over time, right? Like
yeah, it sounds like it's not like it looks like it might be more of a that it's sort of an evolving narrative thing, but maybe not like the sort of choose your own adventure style, like an actual like book for you to read.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's somebody online who does a lot of these like single page 3 dice RPGs, and then one of the ones they did was like you're trapped at Lord Byron's house or something. Like you're trapped.
I mean, we did the Honey Heist on
Dice Friends.
Dice Friends one time, yeah.
Is
Which is
same
that
kind
was
of
sort
idea?
of a 1 page, yeah.
Yeah, here's your rules and
you're all
everyone's-
bears and do stuff, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Boop, 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 boop.
Have Adam narrate your adventures. Oh Jesus.
I feel like he'd just be
a little bit fiasco.
an
Yeah,
antagonist on you.
that might be fun.
Now, was it last week we talked about they were doing some testing on how AIs could fare playing what's his name? The
Pokemon.
lawyer guy.
Howard Phillips.
Kirby. Jack
Yes.
Kirby.
Well-
Jack
known-
Kirby. Yes.
Well-known lawyer Kirby.
Yeah.
Kirby,
Ace Attorney.
Mark Kirby. Oh,
Kirby was named after a lawyer.
Yeah. Ace Attorney
right.
Oh,
games.
yeah. Ace Attorney game.
Using the AI to play the Ace Attorney games.
Why would you
and
do
it
that?
did not go too well.
I bet.
Yeah. They're not.
Which I would argue part of the reason why maybe the AI didn't do too well was because the AI tried to actually be an attorney, and that's not really what you do in Ace Attorney games.
Yeah, I mean,
But also, the idea is that there were it's this test of like, can it learn the rules of the game?
yeah,
Right,
but
kind
that's like asking it to, and not just an AI, but anybody to play a point and click adventure game and figure out the rules.
But I mean,
This attorney's not super nice in the beginning.
I mean, although it's kind of interesting in the sense that like they're talking about like because the AIs didn't even get through like the first couple of
Dialogue
the
sequences.
first couple of cases that are supposed to be like the learner ones.
Yeah.
Oh,
But-
you couldn't figure out the baseball glove was actually a bunch of bananas.
Anyway, but this story is about
How was
kind
it
of a
to defend
similar
the
idea
whale?
where there's been a project to get AI to play Pokemon. So remember the Twitch plays Pokemon stuff.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, this is worse.
Yeah.
The AI does worse than a bunch of random people in chat spamming different directions.
Now, which AI is this specifically?
This is actually a couple of different AIs have
Okay.
tried it.
So they're fighting it out.
Claude, Anthropic's Claude was trying to beat Pokemon Red.
And the other one did Pokemon Blue, right? So they could trade.
I hope so.
And then Gemini actually has been working on Pokemon Blue apparently. I don't know if
because
they
you
were
need to
supposed
be able to trade.
the Google released the thing being like that their Gemini actually got through Pokemon Blue.
What was it
Yeah.
starter?
But did you see how they did it?
It took 106,000 in-game actions, and it took like months. So it probably wasn't a very efficient process.
Well, not only that, but they have something that's called an agent harness.
Right. So this is the whole thing, is
Yeah.
that basically is, and to be fair, I think they were upfront in how they set this thing up.
Yes.
But yeah, this isn't, they just, feed the game images into the game,
Right.
into the AI, and the AI has to figure out what to do,
Yeah.
what inputs do. They have this harness thing which is basically like taking a bunch of the data from the game and reformatting it into a way that the AI can understand and parse.
An example of that might be like, the AI is seeing a tile on screen and it doesn't know what that tile is. So but the agent harness says that is a tile that you can pass through because it's a road or it's a walkable area.
Right.
You're allowed to walk on that tile and pass through it. But these other tiles are tiles that you cannot walk through and you cannot pass through. Why? Because an AI might be able to identify like a building when you take photos of it because that's what it's been designed to do. But if you take photos of a video game and you say, well, which of these things are which, it's not going to be able to tell just from looking at the thing that you've shown them whether something is a house or not, because there are things you can walk into in a house. And then what that means is that you've walked into a house and all of a sudden you're in a big space inside this house, and it might not understand what that means either. So the agent harness is doing a lot of that categorization for them to tell them these are places that you can do X with, and these are things that you can't do with that same tile or with the same direction, which is how it was able to actually play the game in the first place.
Okay.
So basically what this ends up being is this interesting aspect of the headline of AI
Beats
Pokemon hides this larger question of, it's like, what are we testing here?
Yeah.
What does this actually mean?
Yeah, because if what we're doing is we're trying to make AI that can play video games, which again is a fun thing to do when you're not working, I don't understand why we're creating AI.
I think a larger idea. I think the larger idea here, the motivation, which I think is whatever, but if you can teach a AI how to play a video game, it can learn how video games work and what they are, and then you could then say, now make me a video game.
Well, or even at a different level, it's the idea of that, a lot of the idea of sort of learning a system, finding the rules of the system, and learning how to move forward within that system.
Right.
Like it's a proxy for a lot of tasks that an AI might have to do. Knowing where the place they can move around is and where is safe to move around.
Right.
Is something that a lot of tasks an AI might be asked to do.
Like navigating a warehouse or navigating a battlefield.
But does it understand all the hidden stats of the Pokemon?
Does it understand how to up and be?
Training.
Right. So this is the question, because it doesn't. Unless you loaded all that in, but then it's not figuring that stuff. So, and that's what this article is talking about. It's like, sure, you can load in all this data and it will come back with a reasonable or it'll sort of eventually get there. But the process of loading in all the data is like already you've basically rendered the whole test moot in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if the AI could figure out all the rules and all the data itself, that becomes a whole different question.
Another very important question. Does the AI have childhood playground friends who will give it fake rumors? Does it try to get the Mew under the truck?
Well, that's why you have the other AI, you have got Claude playing Pokemon Red, and then maybe you have, like a virtual lunchtime playground where the AIs can like talk to each other for like half an hour and then they go away.
I have two things. One, chat's still working, right? Because we've been kind of paused on the last time I said something awful.
Yeah, and usually you're all very vocal.
There it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fuzzra. You've cleared that up for me.
They just don't care about what we're saying.
They just don't give a shit.
Yeah, that's fine.
The actual question that I have is that let's talk about grinding. Because
let's talk about grinding.
Well, if the AI builds an understanding that's like, if I fight with this Pokemon, I can see that it goes up a level or its stats go up or whatever, and I know that stat go up is a good idea. So if I take my Charmander and I fight a Pidgey over and over and over with it, it will go up, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you give that to, and it doesn't have to be a child, you just give it to a human and say, max out your Charmander. They'll be like, that sounds awful. I don't want to sit here and fight Pidgeys all day and do that. But an AI is like, I will not get tired. And I'm not looking for this to be an efficient means of whatever. Or bored. I will fight a Pidgey over and over with my Charmander until it goes up enough levels that it is now like the...
I mean, that's super inefficient because after you get to a number of levels, the Pidgey's not going to be good enough. And really, you just put them in the daycare. Well, no, wait, daycare doesn't exist.
But the AI doesn't know those things, right? It just knows that it got into a fight and it used its Charmander to attack a thing and it saw the levels go up. And it's like, well, if the levels have gone up here, I just do that again until it all happens and I just keep doing it over and over and over again.
The optimization, it's like, you know...
It's not optimizing the process. It's...
Because like you have to give the AI what its actual goal is.
Right. And so the question there like that I have is I'm like, the grinding is the kind of thing that's supposed to that should put you off doing that, right? If it's like, if I have to do that kind of thing over and over to build up, like it's the most risk-averse way to actually get to getting your best Charmander in the game. That then you can go on and you can fight anything in the game with. Let's pretend. And if that was the way to do that, like you would just give up on doing that. You'd be like, I want to do something else. I want to do anything else. I want to do something novel. But if the AI doesn't give a shit about novelty, then it'll just do that and be like, and now I know that by doing that I can get to this point and I can and move through more parts of the game. So it's not even playing the game in a way that mimics what a human does. And because of that, it means that you've created something different that does not think like a human would. You've created something that thinks that the way a computer would about a specific topic. Mm-hmm. And therefore, is the addition of any sort of grinding to a video game meant to be a thing that only humans appreciate or understand? That we're like, when we see a grind, that we're like, we don't want to grind. We want to find an alternate method to get around doing that. We want to find the easy way around it. You said you take it to a daycare, you do this, you do that. There's all these alternate methods to actually increase the value of your Pokemon. Because we want to avoid the grind of it. We want to do something novel, and we want to do something that's fast and that's more optimal, because we're able to figure that out.
I mean, the concept of appreciate doesn't make any...
Well, I don't mean like appreciate affectionately. I mean appreciate derogatorily. Like, I understand this and I get the point of why it's in here.
But like the concept of understanding and appreciating in the context, it doesn't make any sense in the context of an AI, right? It doesn't.
They would not gain. Yeah,
things.
They don't gain an understanding, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
but it's like the grind that you put in a video game as a human, that for other humans to play, it's like, oh, I'm going to give them something that they'll ultimately want to avoid.
I mean, reward and punishment is basically what video games are all about.
And it's why we figured out how to put rubber bands around our controllers and then leave them overnight, so that the computer does all the work of bumping into a wall over and over.
Yeah, but like that's also with a lot of older games too.
Yeah.
Like grinding is some older video games have a lot of grinding in them just because that's like a simpler way they're designed. Games last longer for that reason.
Yeah.
And now we argue these days about does the grinding feel like a chore? Is it put in there just to buffer a game's amount of hours, or is there actually a reason for it? Do we have people who really just like Dark Souls and they enjoy punishment, or do we have people who we're targeting who don't want that, so we have systems in place to not make that be a big thing?
Right.
Like, that's not... Also, the AI can't keep grinding that Pokemon. He has to go get gym badges, and the Pokemon will stop listening to the commands and not get anything anyway.
I mean, if the Charmander stops going up at a certain point, the AI would be like, oh, nothing happened, nothing improved. Time for me to move on and do something else.
But yeah, I think the central idea though is that an AI that could learn to do all those sort of complex things could do also other things that are that are actually like useful.
Exactly.
But anyway,
what cost?
What cost to our grinding in video games? Speaking of costs, hey, remember Microsoft's whole thing where they're merging with Activision Blizzard?
Yes.
And that the FTC challenged that, allowed it to happen, and then because Microsoft didn't do a bunch of the things that they said they would do, or did things that they said they wouldn't do, like firing a whole bunch of people, Anyway, this story is weird because it's like the United States Federal Trade Commission demand that the federal courts halt their $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard has been dealt what could be a fatal blow. For instance, that happened 2 years ago. I would consider it to be a very fatal blow in the whole process.
It's weird that it's like, because to us it feels like it's over, it's happened.
And it's like, what would it mean if this worked? They have to undo the whole thing?
I guess.
Rehire like 2,000 people? Separate the two companies again? Like,
Yeah, maybe not the same 2,000 people though, but
anyway.
what?
I don't know.
So, federal court denied the commission's appeal this is an appeal to an appeal. So it's today a federal court of a federal appeals court denied the commission's appeal of a lower court's decision to not issue an injunction blocking the deal. And it's like the ship has sailed on the injunction blocking the deal. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah. Huh.
That the closing the barn doors ain't going to help at this point. How many different metaphors can this happen?
You're allowed, like the thing is like you're allowed to do that though. Like they would say, yeah, you would have to try to untangle this mess. And yes, it's going to be an even bigger mess, but we think that the impact, like you've already fucked up so royally, it's like, then you got to undo what you did. You don't get to have the benefit of having this thing go through. And will it be incredibly hard on both your companies? Yeah.
Reviewing the FTC's request, the agency has not sufficiently shown that it could successfully argue that the merger would hamper competition.
That's the whole reason. Okay. Huh.
The interesting question would be if this did happen, and it was like, now we're going to relitigate this. Like we're going to have an injunction against this thing that happened 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we're going to relitigate it. And the FTC is like, they shouldn't do this merger because it's going to hamper competition.
Right. Is
the FTC allowed to use the evidence of the last 2 years to say that, like, Microsoft goes like, no, we're not going to hamper competition. We're not going to fire anybody. Yeah. And FTC goes, you were hampering competition. You did fire people. And Microsoft did like, but 2 years ago, you didn't know that.
Yeah, and you can't submit that because we were a different company back then. For one thing, we didn't have Activision Blizzard as part of our company.
Anyway, I don't know how these things work. It is probably worthwhile to point out that the previous head of the FTC was pretty gung-ho about blocking this. You know, they did put a lot of effort into looking at these mergers and acquisitions that were happening.
I mean, they weren't the only ones either, too, right? There was
in the UK.
There was a UK group that went for a while, and then that kind of got settled at some point, I think.
The Competition and Markets Authority was not happy, but
they aggressively challenged corporate mergers and changes, and for reasons that I'm sure we all know, the current FTC chairman, Andrew Ferguson.
What?
Yeah,
I know.
Is it spelled the right way?
I feel so bad for Andrew. Oh, fuck.
Is not been quite as aggressive about that kind of stuff. He has declared that the FTC should stay in its lane when it comes to enforcement of consumer protection laws.
No, you're not allowed to say things like that.
Yeah. I think also that we should smile more.
Yeah. Also, although he has said that he has declared an interest in going after tech platforms over content violation policies that violate free speech.
You know, fascist speech. Yeah.
Yeah. So good job, Andrew.
Hey.
The other thing that I love about this, this is a story from Game Developer Magazine or Game Developer website, which is an excellent website for industry stuff. I love, it's this big story about the FTC thing. At the very bottom, it has update. this story has been updated to indicate Microsoft has no comment on this development.
I mean, they don't need to. They don't
It's
need
like
to say
we- yeah.
anything.
Fuck.
We asked Microsoft what they said, and they were like,
Oh God! It's like we
Seems
got
good
what
to-
we wanted. Yeah.
seems good to us.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, eventually it's all going to go masks off at some point, right? Where it's going to be like, we don't give a shit what you think about this. You know, we got what we wanted someday.
and finally,
and
we
finally,
want to
Something
Now-
nicer?
we want to end up on something nicer.
Something softer?
Now, we talked about the Bubsy perfect collection.
yes.
And maybe Bubsy is not your particular cup of tea,
Okay.
Oh, good.
but don't worry, because there's a Gex trilogy
Hey,
coming out.
All right.
Gex, Enter the Gecko.
I never played any of the Gex stuff.
Say Gex.
Was
Say Gex. Say Gex.
Was it good?
I remember it
I
being
think
actually.
it was a parody thing, right?
Yeah, it was basically in the style of Mario 64. Like it was the like, let's go and it's like platforming, running around and getting things. It is a $200 collectible edition, being sold by Limited Run.
Sure. Yeah.
It does come with a 3-foot inflatable gecko.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
hope it looks like Gex. I hope it's just not some random thing they got off of Temu.
is Gex a frog game?
Oh, it does look like Gex. Look, you're fuckable Gex. Jesus. It has a statue too?
A statue and an inflatable doll?
Wow, they leaned into it.
Goodness.
Yeah, there's
Tail time. That's what we should change the name of mail time to.
No, you have no idea what kinds of things you get at that point.
I'm sure there's got to be at least
Yeah,
one
he-
steelbook, if not multiple.
he did like lots of he would be like, oh, now I'm this particular set of levels, I'm like a James Bond type. Like he would
Yeah,
do
that's
sort
usually the
of, it'd be
stuff
sort
I
of-
see
it would
about
be
it.
sort of parodies of different genres.
Yeah, because Enter the Gecko was one of the things. I'm sure that was supposed to be the
okay.
Kung Fu parody, yeah.
But yeah, so there's you get it on like all different, you get it for Switch and for 3DS, or for Switch and for PlayStation and for PC and for Xbox. Yeah, it's three games. So and sorry, once again the little like smile on the side of the face, because
Yeah.
he's got this like permanent sort of sneer.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Well done.
All right. well,
Yeah, I appreciate this ending of the story, even though I am unfamiliar.
Yeah, was it a PlayStation original, Gex?
yes, there was I think it was because there was that period of time where Sony was basically just harassing every third party that they worked with to be like, come up with something that we can use as a mascot to stand
Yeah,
against Mario and Sonic.
There were a lot of mascot
Sega
games that showed up on the Sony, and yet I don't know that many of them really.
No. Crash did about the
Survived?
best of any of them, and even then
I mean,
it
Crash
was,
got a fourth game.
yeah.
The first was
But-
for 3DO. Wow.
Yeah, and then I mean, really, they should just bring back Spyro. I know that's not technically Sony. It's
But that still was
Bob
one of the like,
Toys.
we were doing our damnedest to make that a mascot for the PlayStation as well. Like there was a whole period of time when that was also a thing too.
Anyway,
Anyway,
those are all the stories that had to talk about this week. If you haven't seen the episode of Checkpoint, you should go check it out. Up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/LRRVG. If you're watching this on YouTube, it is probably somewhere near this video in like the recommended section on the side.
yeah, but nothing we say will ultimately stand up in court thanks to it being on YouTube.
I'm not sure that's totally true.
It's true. Yeah.
we can't
YouTube
use
is a lawless. It's
we can't use
Mad
this
Max
YouTube
style.
video to prove that we've ever owned ChillPoint.
Yeah, I guess that must be it.
I think.
If somebody has a WordPress blog from 2012 about ChillPoint,
Yeah.
But video
then we're
game
in
opinions in
trouble.
2025.
yeah. I mean, fair play to them, I would
Yeah,
say.
I mean, honestly, at that point, you hope you're doing better things.
Patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, and we will talk to all y'all later.